Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Trophy Outlaw, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Matthew Aguilar, Janelle Wheeler, and from the comic book team, Mark Deschamps is also joining us as well. So, everybody.
Welcome.
What's up, guys?
All right. We have a lot to do today. There have been some big things that happened in geek culture. There's been some premieres, some finales. We got a lot to get to, but the first thing that we got to talk about is something we've been waiting on for quite some time. We had a whole podcast once upon a time planned for this thing that would have broken this whole down. By the time it happened, here we are. So it now falls on us to discuss the Nintendo Switch 2. The Switch 2 has finally been revealed. It is out. We even have some crazy facts about it. That's about it. But I'm going to let my game-centric guys break this down because that's what Mark and Matt are here for. So,
And
boys.
me.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, Janelle. I didn't know how much you had time to get into this. Like this
I mean,
week,
I
so.
only whenever I do live stream games, it's only on the Switch. Like that's it.
Oh, I know. I just meant like I
am
didn't know
the
if you had time to go down the rabbit hole of Nintendo's announcement and all that. But I know
Yes.
these two did because we
Yes.
pay them to. So Matt and Mark, what's up? What did you guys think about the Switch reveal?
It was good. It's funny because Nintendo kind of does this thing where we get like the early reveal, and that's always before like the big thing, right? So going in, I kind of didn't expect to see any games whatsoever. So the fact that we got like Mario Kart, 9, because we don't really know what they're going to call it, but Mario Kart 9 was a nice extra. It was like a nice little cherry on top of what they showed. We got a lot of leaks before this thing. We heard before Nintendo announced it, like when it was going to happen. We heard all these things about the Joy-Con changes. So there weren't a lot of surprises beyond Mario Kart, but it looks good. I thought it was a really sleek trailer. I thought they did a nice job with that. And I think the Switch 2 name is really smart because they've always had these kind of weird naming conventions that have given them difficulty in the past. Like, Wii U was just a terrible name that really gave them trouble. And, the whole numbering system makes it very clear. This is a new era. This is the new thing. We're moving along here.
Okay, so for people who are like gaming novices like me, what is it we know so far about like what's different about the Switch 2? Matt, you got me on this. Like, what are we getting? Like, what are the upgrades?
Well, so that's the funny thing. is that in that entire 2-minute whatever trailer? Hey, there's nothing other than people's theories and leaks, right? Like that's the thing. Like I feel like what Mark was kind of saying is like right on point as far as it was a sleek trailer. And it was really cool, but it told you almost nothing. However, as people have gone online and you start seeing theories about, and this is for people who have stayed away from the leaks, because not everyone dives into every single leak, right? And every single patent and also too, you got to take stuff with a grain of salt because half of it ends up being true, even though a lot of stuff on this one seems pretty locked in. Half of it ends up being true, and half of it ends up being for other devices, stuff that Nintendo just decides to do, like that random alarm clock. Like it's all, you never know what it's kind of really affiliated with. But in this case, the biggest takeaway is, hey, it's a semi-sleeker Switch 2. The Joy-Cons clap instead of snap,
and they're not colorful, so it's
sorry,
all black.
what?
It's an all black system. They clap.
I mean,
they
I'm
snap
good with that.
in like this, and they don't
all
slide
black,
down.
making it clap. I don't know if I'm down with this. I don't know what they're doing here. What is Nintendo doing? Like,
Well, they're
what's going on?
magnetized now, which is like the big deal.
I think that's cool.
Man.
Yeah.
Switch 2 for the clubs is what this really is. Switch was all about like being at the tea parties and being at the family functions. Switch 2 just goes for the nightlife. That's really what this is.
I mean, I believe it. I've seen Gen Z out. They probably are like ready to be like, you know what? This bar's a little overwhelming. I'm gonna play some Switch. Like, does it come with some like Bose noise canceling headphones too? Like, I know. I mean, we joke, but like the Switch was actually out. When I was in New York, like even 10 years ago now. Wow.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Just a minute for my depression. Hold on. Just need that quiet bomb to go off in my head. All right, so yeah, 10 years ago, like I mean, people were in bars like playing Switch. Like Mario Kart was actually like a bar game. So like it's not crazy that you say that. Like this thing needs to come equipped with a little bit of after dark nightlife, you know.
Yeah.
But
I think the smartest thing they did so far, again, this is, you know,
the magnets
it
for
looks
kids,
nice.
'cause-
The magnets are great. It looks nice. It's slightly bigger. Like there's some nice touches, right? But the fact that we're going Switch 2, that was such a big thing coming into reveals of like, were they going to GameCube us? Was this going to be a Wii U? Or was this going to be what Wii U should have been in the Wii 2? Right? Like that's what that should have been. That should have been building on this huge success. And they tried to swerve and it did not go so well. And here it seems like, for all intents and purposes, Nintendo listened in a lot of ways, still doing their own thing. Obviously, it's Nintendo. Nintendo does their own thing, which is what we love about the company. But they kind of listened. They were like, look, people love this thing, and they just want one that has a better processor, that can handle bigger graphics, bigger games, and then like quality of life enhancements for the Joy-Cons, how it works undocked, because a lot of people use this undocked. I know the dock's there. Some people use it for the, you know, don't ever move it from the dock. But like a lot of people use this on the dock.
most people use it off the dock. Yeah.
And so these things seem like slightly bigger, right? These things seem to be made for those people, their Switch demographic. And I just think like the overall presentation leading into that makes a difference. The racing Joy-Cons was dope. Okay.
Yeah. No, I will say the Joy-Cons is smart, because the first thing my 3-year-old did when we weren't looking with that Switch was rip one of the Joy-Cons off and forever break the locking mechanism on the right side. And I don't know how many games I've lost because I'm just like in heated stuff, and then it just like flies off in my hand, and I'm like, So yeah, magnets, good idea.
I broke one of the connectors on mine, and it was it was devastating. Like really early on, and so I had to replace the whole Joy-Con, and it was a pain.
Yeah, the Joy-Con,
all about that Pro controller, y'all.
Yeah, no,
I love the Pro controller.
Let's go.
There's one thing I hope that these magnet Joy-Cons and stuff do. I hope they can reduce the price of replacing them, because that was one thing about the Switch that angers me to this moment, was how many times I've wanted to get like another Joy-Con to play a wider game, but I'm just like, I'm not giving you guys like $100 for like a controller. Like, stop it, Nintendo. At some point in the lifespan, drop it to 50 and like, let's go. Like, let's go nuts.
Do you think that like all of the controllers will pair up? Like, do you think the old Joy-Cons? Do you think these, like the old? I'm just curious, because like then you're built. If you had a Switch, you have like 5 controllers now.
My guess is that all the controllers are going to work.
Okay.
The Joy-Cons won't like attach, but I think they'll make them work if you're like.
I thought so too.
Yeah, like Nintendo's good about that. I mean, like they still support the GameCube controllers that came out.
I know, that's
25 years ago almost.
So
which is
stop saying that.
And they're
stop saying stuff like that. Yeah,
I love the game. It's like one of my favorite systems.
I remember when GameCube was revolutionary in college. That's like what kept us all together, was the GameCube.
If I have a choice between playing Smash with any controller, I will pick a GameCube controller. I know some people love the Nintendo 64 one. I can't stand that thing. So GameCube.
What? That thing was such.
Oh, wait. Have you used one
pioneer?
lately?
That was the pioneer, but like, yeah,
have you used one lately? It is unseemly.
I remember trying to hold that thing, and it was like 3 different. They were like, you could do 3 different hand grips, and I was like, how about just one good one? Let's just do that.
How about just one good one?
Just one good hand grip would be great. It's like, you got your 3D hand grip, you got your 2D hand grip, and it was just like, man, come on.
The N64 is one of those things that you look back and it's like, it was the first time technology ever like blew me away as a kid. Like I was like, oh, this is the future. I'm trying to hold this controller that looks like 3 bananas, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do here?
That's so true.
Dude, Demolition Man scene.
Yes.
3 bananas.
I do think it's smart to lead the way. If you're gonna announce one game in your trailer, Mario Kart is the one, right?
Mhm.
Other
Of
than
course,
like
yeah.
Smash, Mario
Yeah.
Kart is the one to do it. We are gonna get another deep dive. Is it April, Mark?
It's April. It's April.
It's
Yeah,
April?
there was all
Okay.
this. There was all this confusion about like the number situation because like different regions do those numbers flip. But yeah, no, it's April 2nd.
Okay. And that's when like this was the teaser trailer, as when the full unveiling will be. Do you think with number one, I'm curious because of the severe amount of links, like I'm amazed, like Nintendo is a pretty tight ship typically. So the fact that there have been so many leaks for the Switch 2, it didn't help that they like prolonged this announcement. I understand why they did it. Holiday sales are important. They didn't want to take attention away, but like, my God, you could have done this 2 months ago, right? 3 months ago, whatever. Like Nintendo leaks are starting to be like Marvel Rivals leaks. Like everyone knows everything 6 months in advance. So is this like, do you think that hurt this rollout? And do you think the wait till April is smart, or should they come out and done it all right off the bat?
It's a weird thing, like, because like, yeah, we had a lot of leaks, but like we had no software leaks. Like we have no idea what's coming out for this system. Like we can make a lot of educated guesses. Like there's a lot of interesting things like Nintendo's done over the last 2 years. Like none of its internal studios have like put out games since like Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom. Like everything that they've put out first party wise has been developed by like an outside team. Like Grezzo did Echoes of Wisdom. Mario and Luigi Brothership was an outside team. So their internal studios have been working on a bunch of games theoretically for this system while we're still getting like near monthly Switch releases published by Nintendo, which has never happened in like the history of Nintendo platforms. Like they really learned with like the GameCube last year being abysmal, the N64 last year being abysmal, like Wii U, same thing. So like they really not only have been theoretically working on these games, but they've kept it locked down. We have no idea. We'll probably have like a Mario Odyssey-ish follow-up this year. We'll probably have an Animal Crossing in the next 2 years. We'll probably have Splatoon 4, but we have no idea. So I mean, yeah, like did it hurt them a little bit? You're gonna get the internet like naysayers who are gonna be like, oh man, we kind of knew all this stuff already, but like I don't know. There's a lot of people who don't follow every leak.
Yeah, shut up, nerds.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think for what it was and what I expected, just knowing how Nintendo rolls, like this is what I thought we'd get is, here's like a trailer showing off the differences. But like I said, it was a little more because I didn't think we'd see software. So
yeah.
I have a question because the popular theory going around is that when in the trailer, when the Joy-Cons race like this, that's an actual functionality of you being able to put it on the table and race Mario Kart like that.
No, see, I don't think that's the case. I think what it is you're going to be able to use it as a mouse. And that's what they're showing you there. So like for point and click games, you're going to be able to do that. For stuff like maybe first person shooters. And
wow.
Yeah, one of the other theories I'm hearing is like Mario Paint's back.
Oh.
So I mean, we'll see, but
God, we're nerds. To me,
Yeah, I know. I wasn't gonna say anything. I was like, wow, they've got it.
We're like marking out over Mario Paint.
You guys got so happy. No, but I mean, they clearly are teasing those two things are quite literally mice. That's
yeah.
So
we'll see. I that's a really interesting functionality right there. Like if developers actually use that, like that opens up so many doors. Like I reviewed Roller Coaster Tycoon on Switch, several years ago for the site.
Oh my God.
And I hated the controls. I'm like, this is terrible. And like, I'm not a PC gamer at all, but I'm like, a mouse would be great for this. Like, this is not designed for like, joystick use. And like right there, like, supposedly EA is bringing back like the old Sims games this year. Like that's like a big rumor that's floating around. Like, put the original Sims on like Switch 2 and like you can use the Joy-Con as a mouse. Like that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's a really intriguing possibility.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, get these kids ready. They need to learn computers. All right. So, all right. Yeah, we can't just learn iPads. They got to learn computers.
Got to learn everything.
Not everything's touchscreen, guys.
Yeah,
I
seriously, it's crazy, but that's like a serious point in my life right now. Besides
Yeah.
trying to teach them the archaic art of writing, like it's like you do need to know how to actually use a computer. Yeah. All right. So Switch 2, good first launch, got our minds. I mean, it did what a teaser's supposed to do is my takeaway. It's like it got us intrigued. We're like, okay, we don't hate it. That's big for the internet. And like, yeah, some features that we are intrigued about learning more about. So there's my light. And so there we I'm good with it. So yeah. All right. Cool.
I waited.
It makes me feel safer. I can reach back here, get my Switch off the dock, toss it to my son, and be like, "All right, I don't have to worry about this."
I got a new one coming.
Yeah, we got a new one coming. Go nuts.
That Toy Story meme, like I don't want to play with you anymore.
Exactly.
Oh,
like,
you're gonna.
Oh no.
Oh,
but
no.
it's just like
I've tried
to protect this thing
Switch.
for like 3 to 4 years now, and it's just like I can let go. Fly.
Does your Switch have Kofi written on it?
No, stop it. No, it was to try to teach my daughter, like, it was thought to be good for the, the autistic sector, but she's never picked it up or played 1 second of it. My son and I have gone many rounds of Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, though, so it got its use. And, my wife and I have a Mario Tennis rivalry. If you ever see this.
Mario Tennis.
Yes. Yeah, it gets pretty
I love
heated.
Mario Tennis.
So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for the next era of Switch. Weirdly enough, being tied to my family. That's all a segue to say, like, so we can get into the next era of switching. And yeah, have fun with it. So, all right, Mark. I don't know if you can stay or if you have to go. Oh, yeah,
Perfect timing.
Yeah,
Perfect
timing.
Perfect timing.
In my DMs, I gotta bounce. All right, so we won't hold you. Thank you, Mark, for coming on and sharing.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I always love being here.
Mark.
Yeah, we hope to see
Have
you
a great
again
day.
throughout the year for gaming, whatever else you want to come on and just hang out about.
Yeah, I'm jealous. You guys have like a lot of like really cool stuff to talk about. I'm excited for Daredevil, so not to spoil like the audience. But all right, thanks guys so much for having me.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Mark. All right. Talking about things that are coming back around for number 2 for a second round. Daredevil Born Again. I've talked a lot. Janelle, why don't you talk about the Daredevil trailer? Because you're personal friends with Vincent D'Onofrio.
No.
What did you
Your
think?
close personal friends.
No. Okay, listen. I am not an expert, but I am so excited about this show, but I am also so confused by this trailer about them like sitting there and having a dialogue. In case you guys missed it, I don't think anyone who's listening to this podcast missed this, but just in case you did, a trailer dropped, and there is a lot to break down.
For Daredevil Born Again, Marvel's
Daredevil Born Again. And I did respond to Vincent D'Onofrio's tweet saying like, oh my gosh, yay, or like I did like an emoji of hands like this, and he responded, thanks Janelle, or thanks Jay. We're just casual like that.
Oh, you're on like initial basis.
I mean, I don't even. I felt very cool. I felt very, very cool for
Do you
a
call
minute.
him VDO? Be like, yo, VDO.
That's actually such a good nickname. But it's really exciting to see how excited he is, because when you see like the stars of a project like really hype it up and it seems like they truly mean it, like I just feel like that builds so much anticipation, even more so. And he is such a passionate guy. Like he is truly such an intelligent, like well-spoken, well thought out person. Like I feel like he doesn't like half-ass like fake excitement.
Right.
It seems like he is absolutely thrilled about this project. So there's a lot to break down. Are we going full breakdown mode? Because if so, I'm handing that over to you guys. But overall, like this, to me, the trailer was amazing. I mean, this was like I said, there's like a whole entire storyline just in this. There's so much. I can't believe they gave us so much in this trailer.
March is coming fast.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Time is going.
Well, what did you think about it, Kofi?
I'm very curious. Like this, I mean, this gave me, first of all, the diner scene. Let's just take that apart. That is now a staple in kind of action crime dramas, thanks to Michael Mann's Heat, of course, which, the movie Heat, which starred Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, had this very famous scene where Al Pacino's troubled cop character pulls over De Niro's expert robber character and invites him to have coffee, which is like kind of awkward for both of them, but they bond because they're both, they're cop and criminal, but they're both top of their game at what they do. It's just they do the opposite thing. So there's like this weird conversation they have where they're friends, actually, where they're both realize like we would be kind of best friends if we weren't on these two different sides of this. But that's their whole thing, is that's the only time they talk in the movie. And it's like, hey, the next time I see you, I like you, but I'm going to put you down. And the other guy's like, yeah, I'm not going to jail, so you better put me down or I'll put you down. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's like literally the only time they have a conversation in the movie, is this one scene in the diner. But the whole movie is them like hunting, is one hunting the other and one trying to get away from the other. So everybody does a diner scene now. That's all to say. There's always a diner scene where the two rivals, like lawman and criminal, like meet up and have like a conversation where it's like a bonding thing. And obviously this one is very meta because it's obviously talking about the show itself and like, hey, it's good to see you again. I'm pleased. I'm not like, what is D'Onofrio does it only the way he can. Like, I'm not unpleased to see you again.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Oh, dude, so
it's
good.
The delivery. Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah, and so it's a very meta thing, and I thought it was funny. But overall, I think this trailer is exactly as advertised. It's Netflix Daredevil, but in a slightly lighter feeling world of the MCU. And I know that's ironic to say because the big thing, I mean, this is the equivalent of some gym dude coming out swollen up and getting a pump on in the locker room before he even walks out. So everybody knows how, flexed up he is before he even goes to lift one weight, because that's what they're trying to tell you in this trailer. I feel like is like, hey, it's MCU, but look, there's blood. We broke a guy's arm and we show you it bleeding. We're hardcore. We're edgelords. Like, and so they're trying to show you like, this is going to be violent and hard hitting too.
Yeah.
But even so, it still feels like, and from just the general composition of the shots, the tones, that it is the lighter, quite literally lighter world of the MCU, where we have like a CGI Daredevil mask falling dramatically slowly. Where you like Netflix show wasn't quite like that. It was more guerrilla, like gritty, always night, kind of always dark. You really had to be on your premium TV set to be watching that Netflix Daredevil a lot of the time.
I was actually going to ask you guys, are you guys going to rewatch in anticipation? Are you going to rewatch the Netflix series, or is that like, whoa, was this way too much?
No, I'm going to go back over it. I want to. I think we should maybe take weeks and do like seasons. Seasons.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Like, just do one like 3 weeks before, like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should.
Because I just started watching. Like,
okay. So, yeah, you're just.
Oh, well, you're already ahead of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah. That was like an expert wife move right there.
I needed a refresher because there's a lot of stuff. Like I started when I saw this trailer. When I saw the trailer, I was like, wait a minute. Oh God, do I remember things? I don't know. I need to rewatch this. And then I saw that New Rockstars is doing like weekly, or like they're doing posts of like episode breakdowns and stuff like that. And so it's just really cool to see this whole like resurgence of people getting excited about Netflix again, like the Netflix series. So
yeah, no, that's hilarious. Yeah. That was like an expert way. It's like, honey,
I did it.
You think we should do a rewatch?
Should
you're
we?
like,
I'm already putting in the work.
Yeah, we should. And then you're texting your bestie on the side, be like, good, because I already started.
Double horns.
Yeah.
Very fitting.
Yeah. I've been at this a long time.
I love it. I love it.
All right. So by
Matt.
the way, yeah, no, just for the record, I love my wife, my marriage. It just amazes me. Oh, did I tell the Batman story on here?
No, but I freaking love your wife too.
The Batman story. Oh my God. So here's how married and how long I've been married or in a relationship. So the other week I was out with some like friends on like a Friday night, and then I got up and I did this like big dad thing on Saturday. I took the kids out like sledding. I did all this stuff like, and then I ended up managing to get like my parents to watch the kids and took Allison out like Saturday afternoon, and we were out. And she was like, she looked at me, and at one point we were walking the street, we were going somewhere to have a drink, and she was like, I don't know how you do this. Like, I don't know how you can go out at night and then get back up and then do stuff with the kids and then do stuff like this and blah, blah, blah. And then when she stopped, I just gave her like this dramatic look, and I dramatically paused for a second, and I opened my mouth to say something, and she just looked right back at me, and she just shook her head, and she just goes, I know you're effing going to say you're Batman. And just walked away. And just walked away. And I was just like so crestfallen because I totally was about to say that. And I didn't get to say it. And I was just like,
I knew it was coming from the buildup of that story.
Yeah.
I was like, he's going to say I'm Batman.
But I never say that. It's not like a thing I walk around saying. I thought I was going to catch her by such surprise. And I was like, how did you know that? She's like, I've been with you for a long time. Like, oh my God.
That's so
I was like, great. It's like good to know I'm like a Severance employee. Like I have no free will of my own. Like you just know everything I'm about to do before I do it.
Oh, amazing.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Well,
shout
honestly,
out to all the wives for keeping us alive.
Yeah,
I'd probably be dead by now. All right.
We love our wives and husbands. Hey, Matt, what do you think of this trailer?
I'm a little disappointed by it.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. No, it's great. It's fantastic.
It's like grenade. Okay.
Spice. I just want to bring some spice, but no, it's fantastic. I do agree. It's funny. I didn't even really like looking back at the trailer. I do notice kind of the MCU-esque elements there. The falling head. Like there's some shots that feel very MCU, but like when the dude breaks the guy's leg in half, that scene makes me wince every time. The fight at the end where they're showing like elbows being like arms being broken and all that stuff. I was happy to see that. Not that I'm just like a lover.
I was really happy to see that person.
But I was happy to see that like they hadn't lost all of the grunge and brutality that if you go back and watch there, which clearly now we are, that's there throughout the series. And they do give hints of like, we're going to get those hallway scenes. We're going to get those, staircase scenes. Like they are going to dip back into that. 'Cause that is what the show was built on. Like those are the moments that no matter how much time passed and in the years between where it wasn't known if this would like, Daredevil being part of the MCU and the Netflix shows being part of the MCU was a pipe dream at one point. And so those reels of those fight scenes would play out and you'd be like, oh man, I wish the MCU had this, right? And so like that stuff's important. I do love also that we are as a person who really enjoyed Echo. I love that we're making that important. Like the fact that like we're moving into Mayor Fisk, we're moving all that. If you didn't watch Echo, you're probably going like, huh? Like, like when did that happen? Like I like that we're bringing some of that stuff in. Muse popping up is cool. I think that's a perfect villain. Number one, it fits the story anyway, because from the comics, but like that villain being this kind of creepy serial killer, who uses his, blood as artwork, essentially, like that very SVU-esque villain type being in this season, I think is a good like bridge to bringing Daredevil in that world into the MCU. Like, again, you have to meet that kind of character. You can't completely like watered down. Like you have to be able to pull some things off, and I like that they're doing that. And the Punisher moment, like that whole moment right there, fantastic. You know, hey, put the hatchet down. Can you put the hatchet down? Like, there's just some great stuff here. So yeah, I think this was exactly what I wanted. I think what fans were hoping for. It was great seeing, you know, the gang back together, because at one point they weren't in the series. Before all the rewrites and everything, like Foggy wasn't around, like all that stuff was it's nice to see all that back. So this thing finally, it seems like we're actually crossing the finish line. It's awesome.
I've heard theories that we might get bait and switch, though, that Karen and Foggy could be the thing that was the line that was crossed, like they got taken out.
No.
And that's why Matt's in the shower with a new lady. And
now, even if that's the case, I'd be okay. I mean, it depends on execution, obviously, but I'd be okay with it because they still like brought them back in. They still dealt with it and didn't just like, oh, you never see them. Yeah, like I don't like that. I like that we're actually gonna integrate them in the story. If that's the case,
I think that could be tied to, and I also think that could be tied to the born again part. Like something died, and then like there's got to be kind of a new era of Daredevil.
Oh, that's a really good point.
And that's a clean way to wrap it up and give them their send off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, both Deborah and what's his name? I always forget the Foggy actor's real name. It's like Eden or something like that. But they've gone on to do other stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, I get it. So
he was in a generational classic.
And it's also kind of a good motivation for why Matt would maybe be more willing to be like working with somebody like Frank Castle and all of that stuff. So it could tie a lot of stuff together. So yeah, I think those scenes we see of him walking alone, I think there'll be two different kind of eras of this story, like when they were alive and stuff, and then, you know, what happens.
That's a really good point. Wow. Now I'm anticipating
you don't see them interacting in the trailer that much. Like you see a couple scenes of Foggy and Karen, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I think there could also be things like Matt sees them technically, or remembers them, or imagines them, stuff like that. So we'll see. But that's the kind of running theory. But yeah, no, I'm interested. This could be the first time I get kind of truly sucked into an MCU show, like again, like in the actual grounded, active MCU. So we'll see. All right, Daredevil Born Again is coming up fast, so we'll be talking about it. I'm going to do a quick review so we can do kind of skip through time with Wolfman. Lee Winnell's latest Universal Monsters reboot following the 2020 release of Invisible Man. It has been half a decade since the pandemic, guys.
What?
Yeah, we're coming up on it.
Why do I feel like this literally happened like last year?
Exactly. But Invisible Man was released 5 years ago. That was the last Universal Monsters movie. So time warp again. But this movie is in Wolfman, and that's the next Universal character. Now, Wolfman is a character that has been typically hard to do. The original Wolfman movie was Lon Chaney was the one that most people kind of really gravitate towards. But as one of our wonderful writers, Lisa, has broken down, it is very much not a subject matter that is been successful in modern times. We had Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer's Wolf, which was like kind of a cult classic, but it was okay. But, you know, nobody's calling that like, how many times have you rewatched Wolf? You had the Benicio del Toro Wolfman with Anthony Hopkins and all of that, the period piece. Like, how many of you love that, right? Like, so the Wolfman,
that's the one I know the best.
Right. Yeah, everybody has at least one, but like they're not great. They never really hit. Like Wolfman movies aren't like a hit. We never need like Wolfman 2, The Howling, and American Werewolf. Those are pretty much the two. Like The Howling's like the only one that's made a series out of this, I think. Like a legit series out of werewolves. So people have done some interesting things. Neil Marshall did Dog Soldiers, which was like werewolves and military stuff. Like that was kind of all crazy. But so Wolfman, this one tries to do what Invisible Man did, which was make the universal monster applicable to some kind of modern day, societal tension. Invisible Man was about the Me Too and stalking and toxic relationships and all that. This one's about nothing. So I've had a long conversation with our boss, Ben Kendrick, and our comic book Wolfman, Patrick Kavanaugh, who couldn't be here today because I tried to get him on here, the comic book Wolfman we recognize. And we were talking about this after I left Wolfman and during Wolfman, to be quite frank. I was texting them back and forth. So this movie's about nothing. It's a very confusing attempt to, at first, it feels like the studio just cut this down to a creature feature. It's about 90 minutes and 103 minutes. And they feels like they just cut it down because the movie starts out and Patrick has pieced together like these interesting things from the press notes. It was supposed to be this deeper story about Christopher Abbott, his father being like a Vietnam War vet or some kind of war or Iraq war vet. And then his mom having ALS and that messing up their family, and his dad projecting all this toxic kind of fatherhood onto him because he was upset about his wife and all that. And then that becomes the metaphor, I guess, for when he becomes a werewolf and this inner kind of bad trauma that he's been suppressing to be a good dad comes out in the form of a monster. But none of that's in this movie. None of that's in this movie. So what you get is Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner from Ozark having the worst chemistry I've ever seen from a couple. There's literally one scene to establish what their relationship status being complicated is. And they're literally sitting on some New York steps, not really looking at each other, having this deep conversation about, are you happy? I want to be happy together and enjoy these years. Like, and it's like, what is this? And so when like the werewolfing starts and stuff like that, most of this movie is Christopher Abbott running around half werewolf while escaping a different werewolf. So he's not the main werewolf. There's another werewolf that's stalking them while he's turning into a werewolf. And so it's him in half werewolf makeup a lot of the time, trying to hide from this werewolf, which, spoilers, can anybody guess who the other werewolf is? Anybody want to just take a stab at it? Nobody who's seen the movie?
Wait, it's wife?
No.
The wife? Oh.
No, the wife and the daughter are trying to escape the whole time.
Oh, okay.
But in the framework of this story that I just told you, who do you think the other werewolf is?
Oh, the dad.
Boom! Wasn't hard. Not hard at all. Not hard at all.
So obvious that I didn't even want to guess that. Oh, no.
I mean, it's obvious from the beginning. You're like, who's this other weird wolf dude we don't know? Who could it possibly be? Is it possibly the only other character we've ever met in the setting that they're going to because the dad's presumed dead? I don't know. So the movie, but when you find that out, that has no impact because you didn't know the dad. You didn't know any of that. There's like one scene with the dad in the beginning. And so none of this movie makes any sense. There's no metaphor to this. It's just a guy gets kind of sick, helps his family sort of. But the coolest thing is we see werewolf POV, which is like everything's like neon fluorescent
that's
in
cool.
the dark. And yeah, that's cool, but it makes no sense. And he starts not being able to understand people. So it goes Charlie Brown on you. Like, so half the movie is him trying to just understand what his wife and daughter are saying as he's transforming. And then you see his POV and it's just like, womp, 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 womp. And you're like, what is happening in this movie? Janelle, you'll be proud. Luckily, I had a nice like 8.5 ABV beer, and I was just like,
hey, I like it.
Whatever, sure. And yeah, you'll hate the wolf makeup effects. So yeah. Alex Glean on YouTube said this is confusing. I think we can leave it right there and move on to another subject.
Yep,
yes,
that's
Wolfman.
perfect.
This is confusing. The end. Yep. Chris Chipperson, he also is a fan of Wolf POV. Yeah, that was the only, I said to Ben, that's the only thing I'll remember this movie for. Literally, just the Wolf POV. All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got some TV to talk about. Skeleton Crew ended, Severance is back, and we have a new Wolverine we really got to talk about. Stay tuned. Okay, Skeleton Crew, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I got one question for the group. Did this show stick the landing? Janelle, let's start with you.
Yes. Oh my God. This was so good. I mean, I hope that I'm not wrong. I always hate going first because I respect y'all's opinions so much. But I just had a blast with this finale. It did feel like maybe there could be a season 2 because we don't know where Jod is off to or what happened to him. But just seeing these kids like outshine their parents and like their adventures, like they're so soulful for their, being children. And like yes, the payoff was amazing. The show got me through the holidays. Like it was just so wonderful. And I wish that my kiddo was a little bigger so we could have watched it together because I adored it. I loved the show. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but this is my favorite Star Wars anything ever.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like even more than the original films. I'm so sorry. People are going to come after me.
Why? No, that's awesome.
Yeah. I just
say it with your
adore
chest.
it.
Go ahead. Stand on business. Don't let them tell you anything.
The tone and it's like just like what it is. It's obviously such a departure from the original Star Wars that we all know and love. Like it's just its own thing and I just love it. I love it. What do you guys think?
It gets back to, I was talking about, I've written pieces about specifically focused on Jod and Jude Law's Jod and why it's low key more meaningful for the franchise than people think, because we have this for the first time, like a force. This show took all the elements of Star Wars, but it's the first time we've made something really entertaining out of just the elements of Star Wars and not the lore and like the canon weighing us down. Like AT-AT was perfectly removed, quite literally, from all of that stuff. It was part of it, but not weighed down by it. Like we didn't need to know what Palpatine was doing or where Vader was or where Mando is or like where Luke is and all. None of that matters like in this. But you still got pirates, smugglers, spaceships, space battles, droids and tech creatures, cuddly creatures, lightsabers, force powers, but none of it had to be Jedi, Skywalker, this, that, the other, right? Like we just made Jod as an entire character that's basically Luke Skywalker and Han Solo mashed together into one person, and it's awesome. And we were like, okay, so yeah, there's so many ways we can do this and use those elements of Star Wars without having to be weighed down by canon. And I think one thing that people are kind of responding to in this show is it's really the first Star Wars property since A New Hope to give us an archetypal story where seemingly normal characters kind of step into their own heroic destiny. It's not because they're some chosen one and the Force is working fate or they're connected to Luke Skywalker or the Jedi Order or anything. It's an everyman story, right? Or an every girl story. Like you're a kid, you want to see the world, you want to get out and have these adventures, and you get on this kind of epic, kind of scary, kind of crazy adventure that helps you find yourself, and you come back a little bit more mature and a little bit more secure and all of that, and appreciating, the things in your life. So that's
you shoot big lasers.
Yeah. And that's an archetypal story. Like people forget that that's why the first Star Wars became such a phenomenon. If you go back and watch that, Luke Skywalker's not like some character defined by this deep lore. He's just some crazy nerdy kid who finds out he's like the chosen one and has to step up and save the galaxy. And by the time he makes that shot at the end, you're like, this is great. And you can imagine, hey, that could happen to me. Maybe I can do that. After that, Star Wars got closed off because you're like, oh, I'm not part of the Skywalker DNA line. Whoops. Like now you're just watching something about something else, somebody else. This touched that thing in us, that kid, that wonderment, that excitement, that kind of archetypal thing. So do more of that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to conflict with something like Andor, which is obviously something much different, like a sci-fi reflection of serious socio-political issues that chose not to use any of the fantastical elements of Star Wars. Not aliens, not laser swords, not, mystical. Yeah. So we can have both.
Yeah. And then you got Mando doing like quintessential Star Wars in a way. And it's in the middle somewhere. And I love that too. Like I like when Star Wars is actually doing all of the things and just letting them just do whatever the hell they want. I just don't like it when it's like it becomes one thing solely, which is what it kind of felt like for a couple years there. So no, I hope that there's all this talk about I mean this show leaves things. I would love to see a whole other season just picking up and seeing these characters now that they've entered kind of this first chapter of their stories and seeing where they go from here, especially now knowing the truth about where they live and all that other stuff. But then also, like, there's a whole series you could do with Jod.
Oh, yeah, I want
within
that.
Itself. Like there's so much potential for what they've created here. So I don't, whatever they decide to do, I just don't want them to like leave it on the shelf and just not ever do anything with it. I don't care if it's a spinoff. I don't care if it's just a direct season 2 and we start dealing with all that stuff. I just want them to do something with this because this is just too good to just let sit. I hope we get more of this. It was delightful.
Yeah,
So.
Star Wars is in that Marvel kind of weird thing. Disney has really got to get out of this, which is just like getting us into the feeling that this stuff actually matters on a larger universal franchise level, and that we're not just getting all these one and done half-assed experiments that get thrown away once we invest in them. Because that's what Marvel's been for the last couple of years, and really, low-key, that's what Star Wars has been for the last couple of years. Like, we just keep getting new series, and we're like, okay, and then they're gone, and we're like, okay, and then something comes new, and we're like, okay, and then it goes, and we're like, okay. So, and none of it's sticking, right? Like, none of it, except for Andor Season 1, is like something I'm like, I gotta go back and watch that again and again. So, yeah, I mean, I hope that I think it would be a critical mistake no matter what the ratings were, or how many people watched it. There's Skeleton Crew is one of those things that I think, yeah, like in another year, my son will really sit down and watch it. Like, it's something that kids and younger fans can get into Star Wars through. So, yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. I think we should flip around and do Ultimate Wolverine so we can get Janelle in on this conversation. And then she's kind of in the clear. Because me talking about Severance and Matt talking about Diamond and us talking about the Diamond bankruptcy is much more deep geek than I'm sure Janelle can take.
I love Severance.
Okay. Did you watch it?
No, not yet. Oh my god.
Ooh, I did a rewatch this weekend, watched the season 2 premiere. So I'll save that for when you're gone. We'll get into that.
Okay.
All right. So you can drop off. We'll do Ultimate Wolverine and you can get out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk. My God. Woof. Marvel's new Ultimate Universe. I love this book. I'm not going to hold you. I loved this book, but it is making things so much crazier for X-Men. Ultimate X-Men is starting to look real crazy out here, like with that book and its placement and that whole story. But I'm not going to hold you. I love this. Ultimate Wolverine 1 was about as good as a debut book as you can get, I think. And like Batman, Logan is just trotted out to do everything all the time. So finding new ways to make Wolverine interesting is incredibly hard at this point. But by George, done it.
By George.
By God.
No, I mean the Winter Soldier, Wolverine version, like Winter Soldier, and just already the amount of emotional drama and hurt they're doing by kind of taking everything from all this information overload we have about Logan and then spinning his character into something that is tragic and really making you feel the tragicness of it in this first issue is well done. So that's my feeling. Loved it.
They're taking it back to, I mean, they're really going back to, for this one. It's so funny. Like this one is very much like these very simple ideas, but these ideas that people have been talking about for a long time are behind a lot of to me anyway, the success of like Ultimate Spider-Man and now Ultimate Wolverine, right? Ultimate Spider-Man was always this thing of like, okay, but why can't we just have them married? and that can be an interesting book. That can be an interesting story, despite what editorial says for years and years and years. This is, people want this, and they want to see what that looks like. And they did it, and then it was like, we're just taking it to a basic idea of what is a family, a superhero family, with this core character introduced later in life. Like, what is that? And what is a married couple in that dynamic, right? Very different. And so we just want to see that for the character. And they took it to that basic place and then built from there. And it's been wildly successful, right? Wolverine is, hey, Wolverine's done a lot of stuff over the years, but the core idea, this basic idea of this, what is kind of been described as this killing machine, not understanding who he is and what his role in this world, other than this like one direct factor. And we're just going to go back to that, but we're going to twist it. And the Winter Soldier model is brilliant. Them doing that was just like, that makes so much sense. Like just moving it into that sphere. And the whole, I mean, obviously we're getting into spoilers here for this book, but like this whole sequence with Nightcrawler and Mystique, there's a whole conversation with Nightcrawler, and you're just like, oh my God, like you're just so heartbroken, right? Because they establish early that like this dude just kills. This is Wolverine. Wolverine
doesn't talk. Yeah, like that first scene where they're sitting in the plane and like talking junk about him in front of his face.
That's hilarious,
dude. It was so good. I mean, you've kind of wrapped it up perfectly, but as I will say, like I was confused at first. I as soon as I started reading it, I was like, what's going on? Like who's the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Like, did he start off bad or good? I don't know where we're at. And then obviously it made sense as soon as I dropped Winter Soldier. Like I was like, wait, what? Like totally shocked. And just really excited about it. This is going to be crazy going forward, because I was hoping that he would just switch back and be like, oh, wait a minute, I have a reminder of who you are. And maybe there's something in me stirring and I'm not going to kill it. No, he's literally just going to like take out everyone for a while.
Yeah. It's and by the way, I want to make sure I didn't even clock that Alessandro Capuccio, who is phenomenal over on Moon Knight, was doing the artwork for Wolverine. I was like, why is this book so gorgeous?
Yeah.
Throughout the book. And Brian Valenza does the coloring, and like, my God, I was just like, I was reading throughout. I was like, man, this is gorgeous looking. And I didn't even process that it was also Moon Knight, which I adore that, but the artwork on that book is insane. So the fact that we have that, and we have so much in the facial expressions, it's so important towards the end, right? Dude just sitting by himself, and that whole sequence doesn't say a word. There's just narration, and it's mostly like
does he say
prayer.
Anything in this book at all? No dialogue, right?
No.
I thought he said one thing, but no, I don't think he does. You're right. I don't think he says one thing. It's just so like you convey so much in his facial expressions, and like the fantastic job. The ultimate line and the absolute line are just insane right now. So I mean, if you're you're and again, I'm not even, that's not in any way like dissing the main event timelines and stuff, because there's a lot of great stuff going on.
I will. These main event timelines, I mean, DC's doing all right, but Marvel,
I love it.
If you're asking me, do I want to read Wolverine from the Ashes or Ultimate Wolverine?
Okay, well, yeah, there's no
let's have
there.
that discussion. Yeah.
I want issue 2 of this before any other X book.
Yeah.
At this point in time, aside from like Uncanny, and I really love Exceptional X-Men, but this is like in a different space, right? Completely. So like I will, this book is just like tops. So but
this
it's
is
so
already
compared to Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah, but it's already in one issue. I already know that this version of Wolverine is going to be up there with like Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Like, and the outfit,
top notch,
so good.
Wolverine variants. Like, I would love to see. I almost hope this guy doesn't get fixed. Like, I hope he exists in this form. Could you imagine this version of like Wolverine crossed over to like the 616 and like just having to go up against our Logan? That'd be nuts.
Yeah,
Logan and Bucky versus
Whoa,
Wolverine.
Stop.
That's the one. We have to read it. If that happens, Janelle, that's like Janelle's most
That has.
anticipated book
Oh
of the
my
year.
gosh! If that doesn't, Kofi, you need to just go work for these people and tell them.
I know. I got a career change. I've already, like Ben was telling me, we need to be script doctors because we were fixing Wolfman all night. Yeah, so I mean, I got to get out of here and do some. It's time for change soon, but not right now. I'm having too much fun, and I'm here on my couch. I'm talking to you guys. Like, what's the change right now?
You had the very New York inflection.
Hey, I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here. All right. So that's Ultimate Wolverine. I think we can all like go out, get this, read it, keep this. This is going to be one of those classic books one day when we 10 years down the line. But yeah, it is just gnarly. His memories, that scene of the flashback where they like thought he was like a mortar, where he got hit with a mortar strike.
Yeah.
And just how Wolverine's healing ability and all of this. Oh, I was muted before. I was trying to say that what I love about this book that really hits the heartstrings is it twists everything we've developed over the years about Logan and family and connections. And that's the heart of this, right? The story. This thing that they twisted in him is the belief that the X-Men abandoned him and left him, and that he was all alone. And then that's the thing. And that whole thing with Nightcrawler.
He's like, we came back for you.
Yeah. And that just like, I was like, that's the part that got me. Not even the killing. I was just like, oh my God. Like,
no, yeah, you're right.
The emotional impact of being like, bro, you got to know, like, we didn't leave you. We came back, but you were gone. And like, this whole thing is just a misunderstanding. And like this tragic, I hate tragic misunderstandings, but yeah, it was great. So go out, read this, get it.
And the telepath drop.
Oh
yeah. When they mentioned that, hey, we have that telepath, and you're like, oh, which one? Right? Your brain starts moving, and you're like, oh, you just have someone. There's so much in this one issue that, like, yeah, I just also you get to see, evil Colossus get gutted. Even if it's not real, you still get to see it. That's good.
Yeah, this was great.
So
I was just looking back over it. Yeah, the artwork, just the facial expression at the very end, dude. Like, just great. All right. So, Ultimate Wolverine, big win. Let's keep it going. All right. Janelle, you are free to go whenever you need to. We are going to get into the deep geek protocols. Here we go. My first thing will be talking Severance Season 2 premiere. Big things happening on Apple TV right now. Silo Season 2 finale, which is fantastic. I can't really get into deep to that because obviously that'd be a whole spoilers discussion. But Silo Season 2 has been good. Steve Zahn, great addition. And that's how you do a finale. There's big things, big reveals, big action sequences, and big payoffs for most of the kind of seasonal storylines. And right as Silo's going out after a 3-year gap, time is so crazy now. 3-year gap exactly since Severance Season 1 was here. 2022. 2022 was 3 years ago, guys.
Why did they take such a long time?
The strikes in 2023.
Got it. Okay.
Eliminated all chances for production that year. And so they didn't get to start production until 2024. Oh my God, that was last year. And then 2024, they got it produced, and now 2025, they can finally air it. So crazy. Just time and circumstance. But we're back for Severance Season 2. And the Severance Season 2 premiere is, I rewatched Severance Season 1, so a lot of what I'm going to say is going to focus a little bit on that. I hadn't watched it in years, but Severance is even better when you know all the mysteries, kind of. It's even better because then the show completely changes. The show becomes not this mystery of what's happening in the outside this office and all that, or like what's happening in the gaps.
It just becomes scary.
Yeah, it becomes a drama about like what we do to ourselves more so than anything else. It's about kind of how we kind of mess with our own minds and lives and self-delude ourselves and won't deal with things and won't process things and create little compartments in our minds, these crazy little things we do to wall ourselves off from certain things. And that's really what the show's all about, because it's about the war these people are having with themselves, essentially. And it's much better. It's even better when you watch it like that, because you're like, oh, I know like why outside Mark is doing this, or why outside Helly is doing this. And that whole Helly storyline is so much more tragic when you know like what the real context is, and you know how you can be this multifaceted person with all these different sides to you, so much so that you can be at war with yourself. So yeah, great show. And season 2 pays off really nicely with kind of getting us back in and giving us new mysteries, but not telling us too much too soon.
I'm definitely sold. I'm totally, I forgot it was back, so I'm re-upping my membership, Silo and Severance. I'm back for sure.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna head out.
Distance Nerding. Janelle's out of here. Go get the little man. Distance Nerding with a great comment down there. Can't say I remember 2022.
Oh my God.
I actually use that line a lot now. Can't say I remember Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so good. All right, guys, I'll see you.
All right, Janelle, take it easy.
Have a great
weekend. All right, so Severance season 2, everybody's back. New mysteries, great, funny, weird, kind of new idiosyncratic stuff. But I'm so back in, and I can't wait to talk about it across the season with you guys. So that's my whole pitch on Severance season 2. Matt, final segment today.
Oh,
ooh, let's just chat, buddy. Big thing happened in the comic industry this week. Something I feel like we've been talking about this since we first got here. In the will they, won't they, will it, won't it, like back and forth about this, but I guess it finally happened.
Yeah. Okay. It's on the precipice of happening, right? And I know I'm a little blurry. I think my camera's being weird, so I'll fix it. I'll fix it after the show. The Diamond has gone into chapter 11, has filed for chapter 11 bankruptcy. So far, not chapter 7. This is the chapter 11. For those who don't know, is the one where you can restructure and you're essentially trying to avoid chapter 7 and going completely out of business. However, the importance of them making this work is quite severe, right? Because not only does, at one point, it's crazy to think that at one point Diamond owned this market entirely. And they were pretty much, if you were running a comics retailer, you went through Diamond. And if you were a comics publisher, you went through Diamond. And since, especially over right before, but also during the pandemic and, when Diamond kind of shut down and companies went like, hey, we need to get our product out. And they started exploring other deals and other publishers. And now more and more people have jumped into that market. So Diamond is far from the only player in town these days. And there are some other big companies in the works. And also they don't have exclusive deals with, they still have exclusive deals, but they don't have them with everybody like they used to. And so it's been a little bit of a rocky road for Diamond. But
ice cream reference?
Well, I was going to say, especially late this year in December, you could really start to see December and November. You could really start to see shipping delays. All of a sudden books weren't in stores, but they were available online already, right? They were available digitally. And so people were like, hey, where are my books? And there was starting to be a lot of that. So now they have filed for chapter 11. They are, as part of the filing, they're kind of hoping to also start moving some of their other acquired companies over the years. One of the biggest ones has ties to the board game world. Alliance Game Distributors is one of the bigger distributors for board games and tabletop. There's already been interest in that being moved, but they also have Diamond UK. They have the Comics Grading is part of them, right? So they have all these other companies that they've acquired that they're also looking to sell and move and kind of reconsolidate their efforts to just comics, distributing comics, and kind of leading into that. And so right now, if Diamond were to fold, it would be a big hit to retailers, and because they have a lot of inventory right now. They have a lot of trades, a lot of comics or whatever that all of a sudden wouldn't be in the hands of the retailers and might end up at places like Ollie's and things like that, right? Just being sold to just get it out of the warehouses and things. And obviously that hurts. That hurts everyone all around. So there's a lot of people rooting for Diamond, even though, like, if you were to go back a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, there's always been issues with Diamond amongst the comics industry and amongst the retailer industry. It's not like, they've been heralded as like, oh my God, they're like amazing to work with. There have been issues over the years, but a lot of that's being put to the side right now, and people are just rooting for them to make it, because if they were to completely fold, it hurts everybody. Like, it's easier to just like have them be around and maybe you don't deal with them as much than just have them completely leave the space. We saw this with Toys R Us. Mm-hmm. If anyone remembers when Toys R Us went out, Toys R Us, like, honestly, to this day, Hasbro, Mattel, all these toy companies are still feeling the effects of when Toys R Us went out of business, because they had to liquidate all of that inventory and they didn't see any of that money. They saw pennies on the dollar, right? So that affected, and plus it removed this giant store from the market. Like, that has big effects. So yes, even though Diamond has had plenty of criticisms over the years, a lot of people want Diamond to be able to stick around, because that will impact the comics industry in a major way if they fold. So, fingers crossed they're able to put some of these other companies and things, find places for them that they can thrive, and then also get back to doing what they kind of initially did and stick around, because that'll be better for everybody. So fingers crossed on that. Trying to end it on a semi-hopeful note there, but it's kind of bleak,
Well, that's about if that doesn't tell you about this podcast, nothing will. Should be hopeful, but it's bleak. All right, that'll do it. And we're hoping. I mean, I'm always just hoping for the industry as a whole. Like, the comic industry, it gets harder and harder I'm a writer. Anybody who's a writer, an inker, an artist, a printer of any kind of traditional media, like, yeah, it gets harder and harder year by year as things go screen. But we got to keep on keeping on and try to do the best to keep our favorite mediums alive here. So I'm always rooting for the industry, and I'm always rooting for the industry right now, because sudden, like, hard, impactful things like this, like you said, it's never good for anybody overall. So we'll keep fingers crossed. And on that ominous note, we are going to say goodbye to this episode of Comic Book Nation. We are the only show that does it all for geek culture, and the official podcast of comicbook.com, where you can find all of our work and thoughts and writings all the time. So go check out comicbook.com. I am your host, Covey Outlaw. I'm getting out of here. Matt, thanks for hopping on with me today. Everybody enjoy some great content, and we will see you guys here next week. Peace.